What's up, everyone? This is Talking with Burritos, the podcast that's giving you something to talk about when you finally want to talk about Mother Russia without offending too many people.
All the gin joints and all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
This is an episode not exactly on Mother, all the stuff that you've been hearing, but it does include, it's a lot of backdoor stuff that a lot of people know, they see on screen, but they haven't been reading about. It's flying under the radar. We just like tweets. We like the headlines, but we don't really like the substance behind it. So believe me, when you see a headline, there's actually more content right there that you can actually go and read. This is something that really struck my interest in 2018 when I was just happening, going through my news feeds and realizing like this common theme just coming up. Like every so often throughout the year, there were these occasions or these moments, occurrences that really reflect on like just the nature of Russia as I knew it or as we see it. Russia's portrayed as like sexy. There's something sexy and just violent about them. Sexy and evil. They're always sexy and evil and just bad people. And you want to think that, oh, that's just a stereotype. It couldn't be real. As I was reading the news this past year, I'm realizing like, wow, sexy Mother Russia, they are some dangerous ass people. So that's what this episode is about. It's about sexy Mother Russia, going into some weird news stories about, political assassinations, sex workers, or people using sex as a means, sexy spies who use sex as a means to manipulate other politicians or influence important people. It is so ridiculous. And right about the time a lot of this started happening, I would say, yeah, it's almost right about the time a lot of this started happening. It was back in February of last year when Red Sparrow came out. And Red Sparrow is this Jennifer Lawrence movie about a young ballerina who was recruited into an elite organization of spies who use sex and manipulation and not brain manipulation. I don't want to say that, like they mind control, but they use sex and seduction as a means. Seduction and intelligence, not guns, as weapons. So let's get started with this episode because I'm kind of excited. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, and as I just sat on it, more things started to happen and occur, which I just want to elaborate upon. So let's start the damn episode. Let's get this episode started. Okay, so we're going to start out with a movie first. We're going to start out with what I was just talking about, Red Sparrow. This movie came out just at, the pinnacle of the Me Too movement. If you guys don't know that, you probably heard it a lot of times. This is about the Me Too movement. A lot of people are speaking up about sexual harassment, things that have happened to them in the past. And a lot of it started in Hollywood. A lot of people coming out against people like Harvey Weinstein, against Roger Ailes, and against guy from Good Morning America. A lot of people came out and voiced a lot of women, I would say. Even Terry Crews came out, as a man. I think that was later 2017, but talking about, sexual harassment in the workplace. We want to talk about this in the confines of Hollywood. Not that none of it matters outside of Hollywood, but within the confines of Hollywood, I want to frame this Me Too movement. And I think Red Sparrow came out at a moment where it was kind of swept under the rug as far as its importance to this movement as an example of empowerment. Hopefully that makes sense. Because in this movie, Red Sparrow, just like I said, Jennifer Lawrence was a young ballerina who worked for the Russian government as a spy. She was sent to train to become a spy who uses seduction, sex, and intelligence to get information and or to assassinate someone. So when I say this movie opened up at the wrong time, I want to reference it in the context of the nudity in this movie. It was that could have been a thing, could have been a major thing that I don't understand why it would be in this day and age in 2019 when we have the internet. We have access to so many things on the internet. And at the time this movie opened up, there was this not well-known fact, or was it a well-known fact, that Jennifer Lawrence got nude in this movie. And I remember watching this. I watched the movie and I was like, oh, okay, that's Jennifer Lawrence nude. Move on. Cool, whatever. But then, I work at a movie theater, and there were times when I was selling tickets, and I would hear people and be like, "Oh yeah, that one movie." I was like, "What movie?" "Oh, the one when Jennifer Lawrence gets naked." I'm like, "Is that why you're watching this movie?" And that's what I want. I think I asked one person that, but I knew this person. I'm like, because I asked him like, "Hey, so you want to watch Red Sparrow? That's cool. That's cool." He said, "Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence gets naked in this movie." No, wait, what did he say? I'm like, Jennifer, wow, man, I can't even remember what he said. But this person really, I was just kind of annoyed by him because I was like, Red Sparrow, oh, that's a pretty good flick. And he said something along the context he said, yeah, I'm only watching because Jennifer Lawrence gets naked. And thought to myself, like, you're an idiot, dude. Like, you're stupid. Why? Like, you can find nudity anywhere. Jennifer Lawrence, it's just Jennifer Lawrence. She's just another lady. She has lady parts, like any other lady. Ladies have lady parts, people. But I guess it's just fascination over that character, that individual that caused people to get excited, which will never go away. We're still going to fantasize over people, man or female. We're going to fantasize over them, and then it's going to come to the point where it's like, oh, look, maybe we can see them naked. And that's going to fulfill some need in some people to say, hey, well, I saw that person naked. Awesome. And I admit, back in the day, it's like, you see Halle Berry. It's like, oh, Halle Berry, nice. She's a beautiful woman, right? Cool. Growing up, obsessed over Halle Berry. Monsters comes out. Or, no, wait, not even Monsters Ball. It was Swordfish. Swordfish debuts, and you're like, everyone's touting this scene. Like, okay, she gets naked. Halle Berry's going to be naked in this film. She's going to show her breasts for the first time on screen. And you watch the scene, you're just like, it becomes nothing, really. It's not really much to gawk at because it's a woman's body, as magnificent as it is, just in general. It's a woman's body. Women's bodies are, beautiful. You wrap this up in this fantasy, but then when it actually happens, you see it in its art form. It's like, wow, well, okay. Why? Maybe we should listen to what they say. It's like, okay, you know what? They're just breasts. I'm just nude. This is my new body. Deal with it. We all get naked. We all are naked. And that's how I see these things now. And maybe it's just me and my age. That's possible. If I was younger, I probably would have looked at Jennifer Lawrence scene in that movie and be like, what? Oh, I like to think differently about those things. And yes, you obsess over something, but is it obsession or is it just fantasizing? A lot of it is just fantasizing. You're fantasizing over this person. They seem otherworldly because they're on the big screen. And that to a lot of us is another world. They're untouchable. They're unreachable. And so when you see them stripped down to their bare nakedness, it's like, okay, well, I have penetrated some wall in between this divide of me, the normal person, and this person, the superstar, which is really messed up if you think about it. Considering it now, I'm taken aback, like, wow, that is an odd generalization of it, but it is what it seems to be to us, to human beings. And that's why people get obsessed over certain things and certain people, which they grow an attachment to without necessarily having a relationship with. Now, nudity in the context of this story, Red Sparrow, made Jennifer Lawrence's reveal less of a wow moment. And as you see her in interviews and stuff, doing this, Lawrence, she took control of subliminally over those would-be, those voyeuristic people who fantasize over what's underneath the clothes of this person they never met, a casual way or a romantic way. And doing so, it ruins the illusion, exposing the mundanity of the human body, especially if you're in a relationship. Especially if you're in a relationship and you see your significant other walk around the bedroom naked. Sure, you should have a reaction to that. But after, let's say, 5, 20 years, 10 years of dating, and you see this person walking around naked all the time, yes, you should get excited by that person because that is your significant other. That's the one person you should be romantic with. And they should invoke some reaction of attraction within you. If you have a problem there, then I seek marital or relationship counseling. But you should have some type of feeling, some type of reaction. And even after 20 years or so, you look at somebody, it's just like, really? But it's still there. I feel it. I think my wife feels it. And I don't know about anyone else, but I can speak for myself like I do too. There is times where sometimes you're just like, oh, okay. She's just going to the bathroom. She's going to take a shower because it's regularly what we do. And you don't have to be on it all the time. You just have to say, that's the human body in the nude. Cool. We used to have to do these figure paintings in school. And you would think, like, if you're a young adult and you're in college and you see this nude body, you're like, hey, that's a nude body. Awesome. But then you start seeing the nude body in various forms. You see men big, you see men muscular, you see men skinny, you see women big, rounder, you see them toner, big breast, small breast, you see penises, you see everything. And it ruins that illusion because to you, you're just meant to draw that figure. And that's the human body. That's not necessarily you fantasizing over this individual. Can you do so if you're doing that? If you find someone attractive? Yes, but all in all, you're still doing what? You're just drawing the human body within that context, that visual context. You see them, you draw them. So in this stance, if you watch Red Sparrow, I thought it was very contextually well done. She took that moment, and it was an actual moment in the movie where she took control as far her character did, and she as an individual took control. And it's basically putting it out there like new bodies as a subject is just more in the subject of the form in which it's presented. Like it's an art form. It's artful. That nudity in that scene was artful. Even when you see sometimes some sex scenes can be very like over the top and very like, oh, look, new bodies, they're going crazy. They're hot and heavy, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times, even those scenes can be very artful. They're for the moment. They're for the art of the moment. And I think this scene, actually, when she bears all, it was more a powerful message of empowerment. The woman's right to her own body, where she was able to govern it as she damn well pleased. This woman, the controller, the leader, the head mistress of this society or this academy, told her to do one thing, and she said, you know what? No, I'm going to do the other thing. I'm going to take control of this situation. And she put it all out there. And once you watch it, you think about it, and it's context, like, that was pretty strong. I didn't see anyone else come out and say anything about that moment, about how that how she would feel about that, how that would impact her, being someone who has been subjected previously with the whack-a-mole gate, or whatever you call that thing. Forgot what is that, when all the nudes and stuff like that and people's phones were hacked and they were leaked. Pictures of her, sensitive pictures of her were leaked to the media. People just freaking hopped on it and just like, boom, boom. I want to see this. I need to see this. I need to see that. And I think even in some interviews, she was like, you know what? It is what it is. And she said it before, but no one listened. But this time she was like, okay, it's just nudity. I don't care. And before, even in that movie Mother, there was this scene, this very kind of violent and disturbing scene where it wasn't her. Somebody rips off her blouse in this violent moment, right? Rips off her blouse, and you can tell it's like, oh, that's not Jennifer Lawrence. That was a body double. Or they put her face over the head of that person whose breasts were exposed. You thought about that, like, because it was so blatantly obvious that it was CG, computer graphics, visual effects. So it was weird in that sense. So seeing her take control of that and just say, you know what, this is just art. I don't have to worry about this, that, or the other, this person. And being as young as she was, then she was like maybe a little bit 2-3 years younger when when the nudes and stuff were leaked. So she's still baby, basically. This woman is still growing up, and women are more mature than men, yes. But to come to grips with this violation of her privacy, wow. You have to think psychologically. You have to go through some things and understand some things. And it's like, and people are telling you to come to grips with that this is just part of it. No, it's not necessarily part of it. I think we need to stop fantasizing over celebrities. Okay, no, don't fantasize over celebrities. Don't stop, because back in the day, I was obsessed over everyone. Janet Jackson, Alyssa Milano, Madonna. I fantasize over all these people, because that's just a part of life. That's a part of being human. That's a part of the law of attraction. We are attracted to people. But when it comes to the point of being overly obsessive, where the lines between screen persona and reality becomes a blur to you, then you might need to go seek some help. Because I don't think there's any reason to bother people with the fear of their photos being leaked or unsanctioned nudes. There's an entire industry dedicated to this. Some people might have a problem with it, with the porn industry. It serves a purpose, I would think. But it is an industry, and people are actually getting paid to be naked, and they enjoy, well, a lot of them do in this industry when it's all legal. They enjoy being naked. This is what they do. This is their work, their job. This is their passion. Do that. And they have like other things. They have strip joints. But you got to understand, there's a line there. Just like I said, there's a line that you cross. There's a line of just being entertained, watching, seeing, just entertainment, and then obsessing and affecting your reality of what is real. I don't know. Obsessing over people is kind of weird. I say if you have a significant other, even don't obsess over them that much, because then that means you become very possessive, and you don't want to become very possessive, because then you might become violent, and then that begins a whole other cycle that you do not want to be involved with. It's a very winding road to go down. So I just say, leave people alone. There are so many people in this world. So many ways to contact someone, to try to talk to people. And I know it's weird. It's weird. You see Jennifer Lawrence on the stage. She's all nice and bubbly, happy. You see Halle Berry. She's like, oh, she's so beautiful. But these are people. Trust you me. When you see that scene, if you watch in Red Sparrow, you might be like, oh, I may not like her that much. Why? because she stood up and she said, "This is me in that moment. This is my body. Take it. See, look at it. Look at it. Take it all in. It's not that much. It's not, it's not that fantastic. It's the human body. Deal with it. People have bodies. They have boobs. They have penises. They have butts. They have vaginas. They have all these different things. They have chiseled chests. Deal with it, people." I don't know. That's just my thing with that whole movie, and this was in context of Sexy Mother Russia, because in this movie she was Russian and she was turned into a Russian spy via the government, so that they could use her to influence political members or to use her as a pawn, give her access to places where regular people might not be able to go. Just in case you haven't been following the news out of Russia, some shit's been going down. Burritos! Like you, I follow closely the news out of Russia. No? Okay, no. It's just me. But fine. Okay. This is not about the elections I care about. This is about how sexy, crazy, cool, and dangerous those Russians can be on screen and off. Take, for example, I got a list of movies with Russian protagonists and antagonists. Russians are often good killers who love to manipulate you with sex and espionage. Here's some movies with some attractive people doing Russian things. We got Vanessa Angel from Spies Like Us. You see Dan Aykroyd and, Chevy Chase. They go over to Russia. They're just inadvertent spies. They become spies, and they're over in Russia, and they meet Vanessa Angel. And she's this beautiful Russian spy lady. And they fall in love with her. And she's sexy, and everything about her is just beautiful. But yet, she's Russian. She's a spy. And she seduces them to get her way, because she thinks that they're someone that they're not. So we have Viggo Mortenson, who is this Russian freaking mob killer and Eastern Promises. The dude's butt naked, right? He's in jail. And you think this is a scary moment, right? This is a scary moment. Something's about to go down, but then something does go down. And I'm not going to tell you one, but it's one of the craziest scenes that you would think about, but yet violent and awesome in its way. You don't want to say sexy, but it was like, that is crazy scary, but this dude is badass. And I'm just saying because he's just an example of a cool, cold-hearted killer in this film. He has a heart, but it's pretty cold because he lives in Russia. And everybody in White Knights is sexy. Even less so, though, Gregory Hines and that weird Russian oligarch or government agent, government person who comes in and he's telling Gregory Hines, and he's trying to go after Mikhail Baryshnikov. He's trying to seduce or trick Mikhail Baryshnikov to try to get him to once again dance for the Russian ballet. You have Helen Mirren, always beautiful, and Isabella Rossellini. She's Italian. So everybody in White Knights was beautiful. And I'll tell you about this movie. Back in the day, my dad used to always watch this movie. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with this movie, bruh? I cannot watch this. It was very annoying. I just see people dancing on screen. Like, what's going on, man? I don't understand it. And I just walk off and never understood it. So I finally sat down and watched it. I was like, this is a pretty good movie, but not as great as I thought it was. I remember more dance scenes and more like challenges, like Mikhail Baryshnikov is like challenging Gregory Hines. And I thought they had this dance off at the end, but it totally ended. It was not the movie that I had pictured in my head. So that's how I realized that, okay, I didn't stick around to actually watch this movie in its entirety. I just got from it what I wanted to get from it. Everybody in that movie sexy. They tried to manipulate him because he was a Russian defector, whatever. And then you have Salt. You choose Salt, Angelina Jolie. You got her as a Russian agent, kind of espionage spy, dual spy, but she's sexy, beautiful. She's killing things, doing all kinds of beautiful stuff with her body and guns. Not related, but, it's Angelina Jolie. Because Angelina, is this one thing about her, you like her movies. She, horrible Russian accent, but in this movie, but still, beautiful in that route, and she could use her Russian skills to kill. She was a weapon of mass destruction, Russian style, I don't know. But she was pretty cool. Really liked her in that movie. Those movies are just examples of some Russian movies. Actually, I haven't really watched many Russian films. They do have some that come out of the Slavic regions that are good, that have been nominated for Academy Awards. However, I don't really remember watching one, and I can't name one specifically that wasn't an Hollywood import. And you would think, do they see themselves as sexy Mother Russia as we do? Because we see them as sexy, we paint them as sexy, we paint them as dangerous. Both. And they're both come entwined together, sexy and dangerous. Even Viggo Mortenson in that movie, the dude was chiseled. He's in this movie with all these tattoos and stuff showing his bod, like, what's up, ladies? But I'm a killer. And you have to take that into consideration that, yeah, he might be beautifully chiseled, but he's a killer. He's a pretty good one, too. So I think it's easy to categorize someone or stigmatize an entire race or culture. We've seen that in life all throughout history. But seldom are these attributes ever defining of a people as a whole. Not really seldom, because you have Asian, blacks, all these, yeah, we're pretty much all horrible individuals and we like to stereotype. But Russians do get a bad rap for their genetic link to the Slavic Eastern nations. Are they an evil race of humans hell-bent on destroying the world? If you ask 8-year-old me in the 80s after a classroom bomb drill, yes. Ask me today, however, I understand better the motives to which drives people to do horrific things. Not that I accept them, but I do know that not every Russian born wants me as an American dead. And I do go back to those bomb threats in school, early 80s, we would have, because it was towards the end of the nuclear scare thing, when they just had this fear that they embedded within us and within the schools. And they had these tests that if there was ever an event, it wasn't school shootings or anything like that back then. It was more so, and at the threat of a nuclear attack, a bomb drill, this is what we did. The alarm sounded and you would hide underneath your desk. I remember that early on. It wasn't until later then we started doing the classroom drills, fire drills, where you just go outside. But I remember actually being told this is what we do. We hide underneath desk. And that was at the early 80s. But into the 80s, the mid 80s, I think mid 80s or so, that's when they stopped that procedure, that practice in most schools, maybe all schools. But it was selective, and it did kind of warp my sensibility or my understanding of who the Russians were. We see this, and that's what I'm saying. We see how they are portrayed on screen, and you think about how some black people are portrayed on screen during the 1940s, or Indians. Let's say Indians per se, because a lot of people during when at the beginning of the film movement, when film became an industry of importance, they had Westerns, and always the Indians were portrayed as evil, as people who would kill you. And the cowboys were always against the Indians. And that's why we have cowboys and Indians. So you have to really take that in consideration, these stigmas that we place upon people. Now, it's not saying that, because a lot of things, even back then, there were some things where Indians committed some, atrocities, and a lot of the cowboys committed a lot more. And some people would say this was in retaliation of that, or was in redemption to this other thing. But That's the problem. Everyone has their own vision, their own skewed logic. Was it all good? People think that what they do is good a lot of times. And that could be bad. And that is a bad thing. But in this context, Russians, they're pretty badass in the movies. Okay, but they're badass in the movies. But see, this is when I want to bring this stuff back to the reality part. All right, there's so many different things that are going on over in Russia that were pretty interesting. I don't want to say cool, but interesting. And let me go back. At the end, in the early 80s, we did have the whole duck and cover. That was still part of a school thing down in the South where we still had to duck and cover. I just wanted to actually throw that in there. That's what it was called when we would have to prepare for a potential bomb threat or scare. It was duck and cover. And maybe it could have been from who else could have nuked us back then? Cuban Missile Crisis? I don't know. It was one of those. But I know we had to do that. We had to perform that drill. And I don't even know if a bomb could have reached us down in Arkansas. But okay, whatever. Let's go back. So we're going to go back to Russia. And a lot of times what I put this in the context of putting people first and how we stereotype individuals. Well, it's not really a stereotype if they actually put that stuff out there and it's exposed that some of this stuff is true. And I'm talking about sexy Mother Russia, y'all. But Sergey Skripal, a double Russian agent spy. He worked for MI6 about 10, 12 years ago. He was exposed as a double agent. And when he was caught, he was given a 15-year sentence and he served like 4. Before he was swapped out for a Russian spy, this sexy, they labeled her sexy. I'm not objectifying her. This is what they labeled her. Sexy Russian spy Anna Chapman. Back in 2010, there was this swap because she had already been exposed in America. So then back in 2010, they were swapped out. It was Sergey Skripal was exchanged in a prison swap with other spies. They traded this one spy for 10 other spies. And Anna Chapman was part of them. It is part of this U.S.-Russian prison swap. 8 years now. He was just in Europe. I don't think he was, I don't know. I don't even know if he was under any type of witness protection or if he changed his name or anything. But back in February of last year, or was it March? Back in March of last year, he was found on a bench with his daughter slumped over. Apparently, they were targeted for a hit. So they were poisoned. They were poisoned by something. Police found them slumped over on a bench at a mall. Just him and his daughter. It's like they were eating ice cream or something, and one of them was actually passed out and had thrown up on the side. And so they took him in, they evaluated them, and they treated them. But then they found that they were actually poisoned. And then later it comes out that they find these spies, that they were not spies, but they were sent out from the Russian Kremlin, I think from the Kremlin, to kill this man. Because the people that they caught, the 2 individuals that they caught, were a part of the government or some faction of the government. And they claimed that they were sent to do away with this guy. They charged 2 military intelligence officers with this apparent, what was to be like an assassination. They meant to poison and kill this man. They would say that they were there in Europe, selling sports nutrition or something like that. But they ultimately drugged this guy. And so he almost died. Him and his daughter, Yulia, I think her name is Yulia, they almost died. Sergey Skripal, he was once a military officer himself, but a double agent for the UK. You can see how things could be kind of tense. They let him off, they let him free, but he was never really free. And he was said to have lived in fear for all these years. And peep this, though. In 2 apparent accidental car crashes or just car crash deaths, his wife and his son both died in car crashes. He was already living in fear. Him and his daughter were already living in fear that their lives were in jeopardy. They get poisoned by this agent used to poison people in Syria. They use this same agent on those people, the people that they thought they said they were fighting insurgents, but however, the insurgents are amongst the people, and so they just poisoned all of them. But that's another thing. This goes back years. So he's been basically scared for his life for many years, ever since they released him. And wasn't protected because they were wide out there in the open when this happened, when this attack took place. The Kremlin has come down upon it and said, hey, this is not us. You don't have the real proof. And sanctions have been placed upon them recently, just as recently as 2 days ago, been put upon those agents and a few other people of the military government. They froze their assets and blocked them from travel in and out of Europe. Not Europe, but out of the UK, England. They really are trying to crack down on this. Russia is saying that this is unscrupulous, this is blasphemous, and that they can't prove any of these things action or that they were responsible for it. However, the two men who are Russian military officers are implicated in this crime. That was one thing. At the center of this thing, not the center, but at let's say a few days after this thing happened, you see this former Russian model. She just comes out of the woodworks and she's on, and she's posting on Instagram and all these cute little pictures of her and on holiday or whatever. It says Anna Chapman. And it was kind of weird because they posted this stuff. I don't know if it was actually her doing it. Most likely, it probably was, because if she was as much as a badass spy as they said she was, which they said she was one of the best, one of these more famous spies, Russian spies out there. And she became famous. She was on the cover of Maxim, and I guess her history is that her father used to work for the military government or the Russian government agent. She was herself recruited into this life of espionage. But she was popular because she was beautiful and she touted guns. She held a gun. I don't know what it is about her. She just looked like some really famous model person. I guess it's just her beauty that sold it, her beauty and reputation and notoriety out there in the public. It's kind of weird that she was actually this spy that was caught in the U.S. but then exchanged for this other spy, which I saw in a movie recently, which was Sparrow as well. It was something of the sort where they doing a spy swap type thing between two different factions. And also it happened in Atomic Blonde? No, not Atomic Blonde. Oh, Mission Impossible, the latest Mission Impossible. They had that as well when you have a criminal or that as a different country wants. And so they try to do swaps for these people. Hey, you give me your criminal, I'll give you my criminal. Things like that. Whatever. That's one story. And that one just centers around, there was a little sexy model in there, but it's very dangerous tale where this man was caught spying on the Russian government, spying for both sides. He was convicted of treason, not sentenced to death though, which is kind of weird. You would think they would have killed him for that type of infraction, but then traded off, and yet his sins were never forgiven, and I don't think they ever are. And so now we got Anna, right? Anna Chapman, she was a former spy. We're talking about these spies. I'm going to switch over to this other girl named Maria Boutina. I think her name is Boutina. And she used to sell couches in Russia. She used to sell couches. She was not owner of a furniture store. I think she just worked in a furniture store, but she was recruited to become most like something like a gun lobbyist would be today. So she was lobbying for gun rights in Russia. Okay. Russia saw, and then she was later sent over to the U.S. as a representative of Russia to, I don't want to say infiltrate the NRA, but she became a member of the NRA, and she influenced people who are prominent American, conservatives, supported their beliefs and became a spokesperson for the NRA. She spoke at several rallies and I want to say town hall or meetings with certain conservative groups. She was really got into it with a lot of government conservatives, even some of those in Congress, those who hold office. And and she was recently, as far as last year, in September, brought up on charges of trying to influence the campaign or being charged with acting as a covert Russian agent. She was jailed 2 months later after she got caught back in August. And 2 months later, she pleads guilty. That she is guilty of being a Russian agent, that she was working both sides, that she was trying to excite or use her influence as a Russian gun activist over here in the States, which a lot of people haven't put two and two together, that she was working with conservatives to try and influence them to vote a certain way, to think a certain way. She got close to a lot of people. And, one of these guys, she got a Republican operative, whatever. One of these persons she got close to, she was sending texts to, oh, well, I would have, I guess she offered sex because this guy helped her do something. And one of her lawyer was like, you know what? That was just a playful thing between friends. She said she was just playfully said that, oh, I would give you sex if you do this thing for me, which is kind of ridiculous. They try to throw out all these things that, that we were trying to paint her as some type of seductress, someone who's out there trying to use sex to get her way or to influence certain people and prove her status amongst the American government, American conservatives, and the people of this group. She was in jail, and she's still in jail right now, and she has actually pleaded guilty, which was kind of weird because as far as what I was following up on, she was saying she was guilty from the get-go. She didn't get as far as she wanted, but she started at a very low level and tried to work her way up. But she did get pretty high up there and influenced a lot of people, whereas we don't know if she really did offer sex for certain things or if she did have sex with people for such information or to lead them in a certain direction to help but yeah, Miss Boutina, Maria Boutina, she was caught up in this same type of espionage, sex novels type scenario, which then goes on to another story, which this is some crazy stuff, you guys, people. This other lady called Anastasia Vestashevit, a Russian sex trainer is what she calls herself. And back in February of last year, she was actually caught up in a sting over in Thailand where they infiltrated their combine or commune and arrested a lot of people. 5 of which, or 11 of which, were of different varying countries, but I think mostly the 5 or 4 they had with them were citizens of Russia. Okay. And so they've been jailed up for almost a year or so. And the thing is with this lady, which really brought her to significance, was that she was touting to have information about Russia meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Okay, now Anastasia says that she has proof that Russians did meddle or that Americans did meet with Russian oligarchs back in sometime during the summer of 2016, that she had video proof, that she had recordings of these meetings, because why she was there as what? Entertainment? She never really specifies why she was there. Well, I think she did say she was actually there as a date, as not an escort, but as a date, that she was there. I don't know, that she was invited to a meeting between the two parties. which we know what she was. She was an escort. So, because we can say that because later on it leads into what she's being charged for. She's being charged for soliciting sex. She was part of a sex training seminar over there in Thailand where she was apprehended. She came out all forcefully. She was on Instagram. She went on the web. She was trying to get the attention of American reporters who actually, we did have some people. They had like CNN, and some people actually investigate this claim and talk to some people around her. They weren't able to talk to her specifically, but she got word out from friends there who could visit her in the jail, record her statements and take her statements down and bring them to the consulate that they're trying to get to the American consulate. They didn't even try to talk to the Russian consulate or anything like that. It was all a means for her, or an attempt for her to try to contact the American media so that she could put out there the claims that she has proof that certain people did meet with Russian oligarchs in an effort to influence the elections of 2016. Okay, she said this, and one of her things was this is the real gamble here that she made, is that she put it out there for the media, and the media, some people bought it, the media bought it, or they nibbled at the bait, but they didn't really actually bite into it because of the conditions in which she would give you this information. The trade-off was that she would be deported to America and given asylum in America, meaning she wanted to exchange her information for asylum, citizenship in America. And that was her given. That was her gamble, that she was going to give that to you, give that to us, and so that she can go on, she can give her interviews, and we can say, okay, well, she has all this proof, all this information. But no one really, they nibbled, but they didn't bite. She held that stance. But then I think it was like 4 to 6 months later, she said, okay, I have no evidence linking these two factions between the oligarch Deripaska, it was Oleg Deripaska. She didn't have any information. However, the thing is, during that time, there is a meeting because Paul Manafort, the most ignorant criminal in the world, apparently, he had flown over to Russia during that time, and he is said to have met with someone. They didn't say whom, but they said he did meet with someone. If you don't know about Manafort, you know that he was actually convicted for trying to influence, trying to lie to prosecutors, and having links to Russian influencers who may or may have a part in some type of scandalous behavior during the 2016 election. Know that he was guilty. He was guilty of this, and he owed millions, up to $17 million to oligarchs over there in Russia. Their claim is that he was acting on the behalf of either himself or people of interest as a middleman between the two factions to try to get them in concert with one another. Now he's going to be doing 3 years in jail, 3-4 years in prison. The thing with Anastasia is that she used that as a gamble. No one bought it, so she's stuck in jail. So 6 months later, she was stuck in jail, and then that's when she said, "Okay, well, no, I do not have this proof," or she never gave it up. People thought that after a certain amount of time, she would just give it up to try to prove her innocence, but she did not. It seems that she later retracted it, and she pled guilty to all those charges. For all that time she was saying that she was innocent, she actually later pleaded guilty. Instead of serving 10 years in prison, she got 9 months, time served. She was supposed to do 18 months, I think. But she got time served for 9, and she was going to be released and deported back to Russia on probation. She arrived at Russia about 4 days ago, and then she was quickly apprehended by Russian military. Not Russian military, the Russian police apprehended. And it's kind of weird because she gets off and she's in this train station. The airport. Somebody has a video recording. They picked this young lady up, and she weighed maybe 99 pounds wet. picking her up, and they try to put her in this wheelchair. She just seemed, for me, it looked kind of weird. They tried to put her in the seat and stuff, and she was like kind of limp body. Then she sat down, and she seemed like she was almost drugged, in my opinion. Looking at the video, it's kind of like shitty quality. You think nowadays with iPhones and 10 XRs and stuff that you would have better video footage, and just like the Sasquatch, what I'm saying, like when I previous episode, I'm like, come on, people, get better cameras, get a different angle. Come on. You got these phones with these high resolution cameras, you can get better pictures. Then they take her off. Today, she was like, okay, I'm done with this. Oleg had nothing to do with it. He's free. I'm not doing anything. He's innocent. She just separated herself from this issue. She said he was innocent. She backtracked everything she did. Speculated that the Russian government had a little something to do with it, a little convincing. But we still haven't talked to Kirov or the other 4 people that she was with. It was all about this young lady and what she came up with. Now, somebody could have coerced her and said, hey, just say you got tape because you're a pretty girl. Or maybe she does. Some of the stuff that she was talking about in the time frame, what American prosecutors, the FBI, have tracked from Manafort's actions, some of that stuff seems kind of close. So it's a really weird scenario, but this is a case of actual real sexy. And somebody say sexy. She looks like she has weird implants and stuff. She kind of looks alien. She has a little small head. We're talking about sex seminars, espionage. We're talking about video of oligarchs and very important people doing deals. It's crazy, sexy Russia. So hopefully she gets out with her life. Russians don't be playing around. Oleg Deripaska. If you know about him, he's like, he's freaking a tycoon. The dude is worth billions of dollars, very close with Putin. And this woman came out against them, trying to plead her innocence so she wouldn't go to jail. So she threw them under the bus. And that's something that you don't do. Somebody over in the Kremlin got to the government, told them to prosecute this lady. It's possible a lot of behind the scenes there was other things going on. Maybe she was already trying to blackmail him, and then she gets caught up, and so she decides, I'm going to use that which I was trying to use to blackmail Deripaska, use that as a means to try to get me out of jail and get asylum in the U.S. Wow, it's like Oumuamua, that comet / interstellar visitor that we had like back in October of 2017. Following this story, there's always something new coming out or new speculations. But I'm pretty sure this is going to come to an end recently, because now she's back in Russia and she better shut the hell up, or it ain't you won't be hearing much from her. I ain't going to say who going to kill her, but you won't hear much from her because it does seem like they will silence her. Let's go to this next one about this one guy. This cat is funny. I'm talking about how dangerous, and we talk about how sexy, how crazy cool they are. They're pretty damn dangerous, because this dude, hold on. This guy, he's a Russian journalist. If you know about Russian journalists, they don't really have a good time, especially those who speak out against the Kremlin and against Vladimir Putin. It's very dangerous for them to do so. And a lot of them fear for their lives. Journalists' lives have been taken by very apparent reasons, like death, assassinations on the street, poisonings. Levinchenko, he ingested actually a nuclear substance, which led to his death, man. It's freaking crazy. But this guy, Arkady Babchenko, he was former military, became a war reporter. In May, he was shot outside of his apartment. Shot right there and dead. His wife right next to him. Boom, shot dead. But then it turns out, like, 2 days later, that he was alive. He was alive and with the help of Ukrainian authorities, they helped him fake his death so that he could get out, because they had reasons to believe that people were spying on him and that there was going to be an attempt on his life. So he went way to the extreme of faking his death so that he could get away from an apparent assassination attempt. It is freaking crazy how he did it, because they did the fake blood and everything. He said, he had to act out how his body would react to getting shot and actually probably and make it look real. The blood splatter, he couldn't tell his wife, so his wife thought he was dead. Like, a lot of his co-workers applauded the fact that he was alive afterwards, but think about the feelings, think about the pain, unless his wife didn't know. He says his wife didn't know. So think about how she felt at that moment to see or to believe that this guy was killed right there on the steps of their home in front of her. So I thought that was pretty extreme as well. That's a great story about him. It's just that this is a dangerous climate, and isn't it kind of weird that even if you just say something, you could be killed just for speaking your mind? Does that make them all bad people? No, it's just when you have people in power and you want to silence the citizen so that they don't have a voice, or that the only voice is that of the government, then this is what you have sometimes. You have this communists, have this one leader society, one word society that operates that and can operate however they want to without having to report to anything. Why? Because you own everything. And they can do this outright to people. And we all know who was in charge of it. Who caused this bad thing to happen? What? Didn't some dude try to come out against Putin and try to run against him? Yeah, he didn't last long. Not that they killed him, but he withdrew his nomination, didn't he? Within, a month of vying for the presidency or trying to contend. Nah, homie he didn't have all that. And there's a lot more other things. You got the girls with Pussy Riot, and it's just this feminist band, and they were talking about how they were apprehended by authorities over there, taken out to the woods in the cold weather, stripped naked, and just threatened, and then left there. And so they had to get rides home. Oh man, it is so crazy over there. And I'm pretty sure that's something like that maybe goes on here. But to that extent, they're so blatantly obvious about it. But does that make them bad? Not everyone, but gives the West and others a horrible impression of them. Do I think every North Korean person is bad because Kim Jong-un is bad? No. They might think we're bad because they've been told certain things. We're this weird queer society who does all these crazy things that go against everything that they believe in. Eating a cheeseburger, engaging in sexual activity with one another on Tinder. I don't know. All those different things will make us look bad. I'm not saying all Russians are inherently bad, but they are depicted as such in the movies. And just recently over the past year, I've realized that, whoa, there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on there that is true in the movies when I'm watching like James Bond movies or a lot of spy novels. When I was watching Atomic Blonde, it's like, whoa, all this stuff is really going down. Or back in the day, what was that one movie when you watched the Jane Fonda, Bridget Fonda, The Point of No Return, where you see, I don't know, you see all these things happening and you have these Russians and they're always bad and always doing like kind of scandalous things. And you would like to think that life does not depict art, but in this case, in a lot of cases, it does. But I'm not saying all Russians are bad because I know no real Russians. I don't believe I know any real Russians. I did meet a lady who said she wanted to go back to Russia and visit Russia because ex-husband was horrible, wouldn't let her go back home to visit her home country. But now that the man that she was with, which, she was kind of cuddling up with some guys, she was just a guest, random person I ran into, started talking to about the movies. She was like, I just want to go back to Russia because it looks beautiful and I want to go there and my family is from there, but I never visit. I'm like, you should be able to visit. You're good. You still got time. She's like maybe 60s, 70s, but why not? I would like to go there because freaking look at the architecture and everything there. It's freaking beautiful. It's a part of history. So not everything is bad, but yet they do get a bad rap. I don't even know if we're welcome over there, are we? I know they have that one guy in jail. He was an ex-Marine. They said he was spying for the U.S., but we still haven't heard much about that. I have a pen pal, not a pen pal. It's kind of like pen pal, though. That's what the new Instagram and all that stuff is. But, oh yeah, back in the day, let me tell you about this. I had some person who was Russian. She listened to the podcast. I think she listened to the podcast, or she liked something I said, but it was from the podcast, right? And she liked it, and she actually commented. So I'm like, okay, that might be kind of real. Whatever. But then later on, she starts, and I was just like, okay, like usually if someone follows or does that, comments, I'm like, okay, I'll follow you. But I really don't like following on that particular platform now. I'd rather do it on my own platform, my personal one, and just use Talking with Ritos for the podcast. But she commented, so I started following her. It was pretty interesting because it doesn't seem like she was just posing for cameras and stuff. A lot of times it's like any other young person with a camera who goes shopping a lot, but she seems like a Paris Hilton of Russia, a socialite, because she was always in the clubs, always like with I think she was like with one dude, but a lot of it was just her in the club or at dinner, taking a picture of her food, taking a picture of her drinks, something like that. But she has some pretty cool, artful photos too that she took cool pictures of and posted, and they were artful, more artful, and not just pictures of her. And it wasn't like a good feed where everything matched or anything like that. She didn't have a scheme going. It's just random stuff. But she seemed like a socialite or something. So it could have been a fake like or whatever. But later on, she dropped off the face of the earth. But she did have this one photo. I really wanted to copy it because I wanted to paint it because it's just a picture of some lips. It wasn't her lips because they were too big to be her lips. She looked kind of fake too, though. It's like kind of like she got these weird cheek implants, same as that one girl, Anastasia Vestashevit, that sex seminar girl. Like I'm like, what is up with these damn implants people like to get in their faces? Like just your natural. Your natural cheekbones, just leave them alone. Then you just get this stuff injected and makes you look like the big puffy balloons right there. I don't know. But I know it's an aesthetic thing, but whatever. It's just sometimes if it looks fake, it doesn't look good. But she drops off the face of Earth. But one time, I was like looking for it. I was like, where did that person go? I'm like, that sucks. Because I wanted that picture. That's the only reason why. I just wanted that picture. But I did have a weird dream that she was in once. And I woke up like, oh, snap, I need to write. So I want to turn it into a story piece so I can present it here, hopefully. And I just need to go back and actually read it and then compose it differently because it was just me rambling. I remember it was like 4 or 5 pages of big yellow leaf notebooks, journal books, notebooks. It's just like the pages that flip up, and I was just writing. I was just writing everything, just kind of like a brain spill, just getting it all out. Hopefully, I can turn that into something. Not all people of wrestlers are weird. In the movies, they are weird. Think about that movie. Think about that other movie. What is it called? Y'all saw it, right? With the kids. They had to fight the Russian government back in the day. Oh, man. I think it was like with Patrick Swayze and all them in it. Red Dawn. That was actually awesome, too. But yeah, there was a lot of movies that depicted Russians as really bad people. And wow, if you just read up on some of this stuff, that this is why. Because you read things like this about espionage and Russian spies that are being trained to be Russian spies. I don't know if Sparrow had any truth. It's just based on a novel, I believe. In this thing, you think that, they sent Maria. Maria's supposed to be something like a sex spy, a spy sex spy. And Anna Chapman, they blatantly put that out there. It was like, yeah, she was a spy, y'all. She was a spy. Yeah, we got caught. Sorry. When we trade this one for that one, but we going to come back and get him later. But, he thinks he's safe, but not really. I encourage you, follow some of these stories. I'll link to them at talkingwithburritos.com. Well, that's a wrap, but not a burrito. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, go to talkingwithburritos.com/comment. Other than that, go watch some movies, enjoy life as it is, and, dream about Russia. Why not? Go back to Russia because they have some cool stuff over there. Just don't get caught up in anything. Don't be trying to take stuff over there, and don't think that you like some kind of spy, because it doesn't pan out well for a lot of them. Okay, have a good one.